Hey guys, it's Corey here. I just thought I'd quickly review a little program that I built here. It's kind of exciting there. Just getting into the AI stuff a little bit more. And basically, what we did is we were able to get this script to classify sub-industries. Um, Basically, we were focusing on dry van industry, which is part of the trucking industry. And basically, all a dry van is a trailer that is pulled by a transport truck that is enclosed. It hauls what they call dry freight, which is freight that doesn't require temperature control. And that's basically what we're doing. So, you got a list of all the industries right here, of all the companies. Under the first column there, you got the company name, the phone number. We've got over here, under this column here, is a description of the company. So basically, what we are doing is getting our AI to, if I can get that thing to expand a little bit, um, read the descriptions if there is a description, and then classify. If it doesn't see a description, it doesn't classify. It just skips on to the next row, and it goes down the list. So basically, you can see here, um, it read this description here, and it's seen the word dry van, and it plopped it in. And it works even for implying whether it's a dry van or not. And you just go down the list, and you can see the implications. If they don't mention dry van, but they have an application that they might have dry vans, it'll do it. And you can see here, this is in French. So the script is also reading it in French. It's not just reading it in English. So that's another little feature that I didn't even realize actually when I was building this, that the AI model, you can feed it French. And yeah, you can see dry box right there. So it's getting it. And so we've already processed it. It takes a while though, to tell you the truth, on my little GPU that I have. I have a 3060. I guess it's considered a decent gaming computer, I guess, in the market. But uh, what do you call it there? It's nothing, nothing like what they probably have at ChatGPT or any of those big companies there have for their servers and so on. But I just thought I'd demo how this program runs and looks. So basically, you open up a file, okay, like that one. Now these files don't have that column in there. So we're going to look for trucking companies, for example, here. You know what? Actually, there, I got to go to process files. So there it is right there. So we're going to go trucking companies, and then we got the dry van. You can select which type of trailer you want to choose from. So like we're looking for sub-industries in different ones if you want a. So I got a drop-down menu for that. And you can select different models on so I got a drop-down menu for the different models I want to use. So right now we're using DeepSeek, and basically just click process file. So we started the script, and if you go here, um, this is it right here. So it's going to display um, the data that it sees and reads, and how it thinks and so on there. So it processed row 1 to 3 so far and has found nothing in them. So when it says NAN, I think means not an answer. And so, or no data and so on there basically. And yeah, so it doesn't shoot out anything. If it does see that it is a dry van company, right here where it's a sub-industry, we'll type in dry van right beside it in color, like the way it's there. And that's how it worked. Otherwise, you can also check out this row right here, which is right above the description row, or row where it says row 6, and you'll see it says negative conclusion for dry van. And this part right here is still, like, this is the model thinking. So we basically input 10 questions, as you can see, the Q1, Q2, Q3, and basically it answers them here. So it says, does the text mention dry van trailers? The description talks about moving freight across several states, but doesn't specifically say anything about trailers. Does Linden Transport own or lease or operate these trailers with its own drivers? Text doesn't provide any information about ownership. Is the freight general or cargo like palletized goods. Again, the description mentions moving freight but doesn't specify the type. Does the company handle dock-to-dock loading typical of dry vans? The text doesn't mention anything about handling at ports or specific loading methods. Are there references to load securement inside the trailers? No information provided here. Does the company brokering or act as a 3PL? The description doesn't mention anything about coordinating with multiple carriers. Do they emphasize other trailer types? And it goes on and on and on. So it gives you a really, really detailed description of all the questions, and then it answers a conclusion. Put it all together. Since none of the questions are answered affirmatively and there's no explicit mention of dry van trailers in the text, I conclude Lena Transport. Here's its conclusion: the company is not a dry van trucking carrier. So it's based on just the description, though. It's not based on whether or not the company actually does that or not. There, it's a possibility, but on their description there's no real accurate, definitive way to say that it is. So I just made sure that it just leaves it blank and doesn't say it's a dry van company. So that's how that works, and it just goes down the list. And some of these descriptions, like I mentioned there earlier, they're in French. So it gets kind of interesting when you read, and here's the description. The description is always going to be this long line right here after the word description and in the color. And it will go through and read them. And look at this, is dry van right here. So this should have been affirmed. It looks like it is right here. So it says dry van confirmed and positive conclusion. So you can kind of go across here and see. So let's see here, and I just want to show you that it was a positive. So there it is right there. So let's see here. So there it is right there. So you got sub industry dry van. So basically what the script does is takes that, copies it and pastes it into the Excel file. So that's basically how it works there. Now I can tell you in more detail how I operate, how this operates and works. This is the conclusion from the model. So the model spits out, its response, and sometimes it's not perfect. It's very hard sometimes to get this response where it says conclusion : and then the company is a dry van or a company is not a dry van trucking carrier. I have it to respond this way right now. Exactly like that, but it doesn't do it perfectly. Sometimes it'll miss a character or add a character or something like that just in here when it's only supposed to spit out this exact phrase exactly. And so what I've concluded is just to say take a portion of dry van trucking is a dry van trucking carrier or whatever, and it seems to have worked really good that way. So that's how I've kind of used this conclusion part right here, which is it basically parses out only a portion of the whole thing, because that if you try to do the whole thing, you're gonna miss. So this has actually been more accurate. Now you might have noticed, so it tells you right here what row it's working on, and we got 7,000 rows in the file. So it's working, but it's a long process. You're looking at about a whole day process to get this to finish, which is a long time. So if you're trying to do it on a 3060, it's not going to be very fast. I've learned a few things over the way building this program. Actually, I built a few programs similar to this, and learn a few things there about GPU temperature, for example. There, so you have your GPU, which is right here, and you can see when it's working because the graph goes through the roof here, and then it drops down, and you can see right now where it's showing 8% activity or 4% or whatever there, and it's got a temperature rating right there, so it's 58 degrees Celsius and so on. And you can see when it starts picking up, the temperature goes up right away. And so what I found was that this processing part, where you can see the graph goes to 100% almost, it sometimes locks up, and it will just stay at 100% or 99% or whatever forever, and it will stop processing and doing its work because it's locked up. And the GPU, the reason why is because it's got a override. Um, uh, I think in the back end there about the temperature, because of the fact that if the temperature gets too high, because of the processing power, it just basically turns on the fan, and you can hear the fan going like crazy to cool down the GPU. But the GPU is frozen up, so therefore it's stuck in some processing power. I don't know exactly, and and it keeps the GPU like constantly at a high temperature, and then it doesn't process, and then the fan is constantly running until it times out, which takes like minutes. It's usually like 10 minutes to an hour sometimes, or sometimes I've seen it just run for hours and hours. So it's hard to say exactly what's going on there. So basically what I did is I found out just in the last week, which is, it's been 4 months trying to figure out that problem, that it's all related to the temperature. So if you keep the temperature below, as you can see here going back, so if the temperature gets, so right here you can see, okay, so it says current temperature is 80 degrees Celsius. Okay, now if it hits 80 degrees Celsius or above, it's exceeding. We put a threshold where we said, you know what, if we hit 80 degrees Celsius, take a break, cool down. And then once you cool down and get down to a reasonable temperature, which you got 59 degrees Celsius, you can then start resuming your process, and then just keep on going. So by doing that, we have now pretty much prevented any lockup of the GPU, and it has now, it doesn't, it no longer locks up and stops the process, which is good, and it doesn't hallucinate as well, like nowhere near as much, I should say. There, it still hallucinates, but nowhere near as much, and it seems to be working good. So I just thought I'd show you right here. This is a French description. So we can go through this and see how the model thinks and what it sees in the description here. So basically it concluded the company is not a drive-in carrier. So what does it say here? All right, I need to determine if a given company operates a drive-in trucking carrier. So let's go through each of the steps. You know what? I'm actually thinking that this is actually for this up here. So this is where we're supposed to start. Firstly, looking at Q1, does the text mention enclosed non-temperature controlled? Description doesn't specify any trailers. Yeah, and you can see right here, this is the French right here that it was mentioning in the description. So yeah, this is the spot that refers to down here, whether it concluded, and it concluded negatively. And then it just goes, does the company own or lease trailers and operate them? Again, no information on ownership or operation of trailers is present. You know, here's the answer. Description doesn't provide any details. The text, now here's where it gets interesting. This is where I like to see this answer. This is why I concluded that it reads French. The text talks about collective transport but doesn't specify. So it actually mentions details in the text. No information is given on how cargo is loaded. Description doesn't indicate any such. It's more about having terminals or something like that. They're a terminal for transport services. So it actually is kind of going back at you and saying, hey, we understood the text. Here's what it actually said. And so that, that's a really cool feature. Now you have it reading on French, which if you're a software developer or and you're using regex patterns, which can work super fast, I can process a regex pattern super fast, and to be honest, that is probably the quicker approach and more efficient approach. The only difference is that you would have to now, extract based on the text or the word that you find in there. So you got to look up keywords, and you'd have to look them up in French as well. in order to extract. And the challenge though would be that you're never going to get it nowhere near, I think, as accurate as this, because of the fact that you won't get implied. And when I mean implied, it's like there's no verbally written description of the industry. And so, like, if we're looking for dry van carriers or whatever, there, some people might not even say the word dry van in their description at all. So now you're looking for an implication. How do you look for an implication on a regex pattern? You can't. It's not easy. Or, like, I should say, it's not easy. It's like, okay, now you're starting to look for keywords that imply it, but then you're still looking at keywords. You're not even really nailing down whether or not that's a dry van carrier, as good as you could with AI. So I'm just doing this locally. I'm using my own computer, as you can see. My GPU and my model is nowhere near as good as probably what ChatGPT or Grok could do. And I built already programs that use the Grok and ChatGPT already there, where you can hook up the API to this. It's not hard. It's actually really easy, and this would process super fast if it was connected to them. But like, it costs money, so and then on top of that, you're giving your information to them. So those are the drawbacks. You wanna keep the data to yourself, and then you don't want to spend a lot of money on stuff like this, because you don't know whether or not it's really worth it or not. It's nice to have this done on your own computer. It would be nicer if I had a better GPU, but for now, this is what I'm working with, and I would recommend anybody that's really working with AI, if you're really wanting to go all in on it, get a decent. You might want to get two GPUs there, and I would almost think that two 4090s or better would probably be great to start, and also make sure you have a lot of RAM. And I mean hundreds of gigabytes of RAM there. It's the more the better, because I think it'll process even faster. So those are some of the things that I thought I would mention, and yeah, so this is basically my program. So we're at 17 minutes, and you got quite a bit of detail here about how it's working. You can see down here if it's operating well. I'll just kind of show you how it looks. So it should be processing. Yep, there you go, it's right there. So there's the next row that it processed, and it tells you that's a freight forwarding service. So they're not a dry van company, which is good. It's pretty accurate, and we can still improve upon this. I'll be honest there, I don't know what the results are entirely yet there, but I'm assuming it's somewhere around 80 to 90% accurate, and I think that's pretty good, for what we're doing here. And yeah, so that's all I wanted to say, and I hope you enjoyed my video. Talk to you later. Bye now.